Thank you so much, Sanjam and CEO, for having us here, and special thank you for not putting the tech panel right at the very end. Much appreciated. Also before lunch, not after. Also appreciated. What a difficult task to go after you, Birgit. That was so passionate, and thank you for putting up a very good start to our panel, because a lot of what you did was enabled by tech. According to me, there are three major revolutions that has shaped humanity. One, the Industrial Revolution. Second, the Internet Revolution. And the third, which we're just entering into now, the AI Revolution. Have you noticed that every revolution really has leveled the playing field and fostered DEI? If you look at women before and after the Industrial Revolution, women before and after the Internet Revolution, and what will be the inclusion diversity ratios after the AI entrenchment. Really speaking, every such period is a moment of opportunity, and that's one thing that this panel would like to start with. So the way we've structured this very eclectic panel, we have people from various aspects of maritime here today. We have Uday, who's been in all over the world in the area of surveys and shipbuilding. We have Akanksha. If you could put up your hand. Uday didn't need to put up his hand. Akanksha, if you could put up your hand. We have Akanksha from Synoda, who has successfully scaled up family business in agency and logistics. And we have Uddara from Sri Lanka, who has a new entrant into maritime, loving the space in terminal business. Let me quickly introduce myself and then we'll get started. My name is Meera Kumar. I have been just 30 years in maritime. Entered purely by accident, had the absolute privilege of taking part in port agency, liner shipping, stevedoring, freight forwarding, a little bit of customs business, and then after being the Jack or Jill of all trades, was welcomed into technology. So I've just completed 10 years in the tech space for maritime. Super exciting, I must tell you, and anyone else who wants to brave the ride, please meet me later. I currently head a company called Diabos. We're a cloud platform connecting ship owners around the world. This is a part of the J.M. Bakshi group of companies. At Diabos, we have a 27% ratio on diversity. At J.M. Bakshi, we're getting even braver. The most recent one, I believe, the Tuticorin Container Terminal is 40% female, with 15 operators, industrial crane operators. So that's how much DEI means to me personally and to my company. The format for this session, we are planning to ask each panelist to please introduce themselves and then answer questions so that we are fast on the trigger and we try and keep up to the time frame. So great, I'm going to start with the youngest at the forum. Uddara, my first question goes out to you. How do you think digitization empowers diversity, especially in operational roles, like in terminals? Please tell us about Sri Lanka and also whatever you can see around the world. Over to you.
Thank you, Meera. Hello, everyone. I'm Uddara Kumaratunga. I'm the Deputy General Manager of Commercial and Marketing at South Asia Gateway Terminals, SAGT, a Singer terminal operator in the Port of Colombo. So as Meera mentioned, technology and automation has brought about a lot of opportunity in the industry. If we look at how the industry has evolved in terms of its operations over the last 4 to 5 years, the pandemic was a blessing. It really accelerated our efforts in terms of automation as well as digitization. And as she mentioned today, if we look at the port and terminal sector, we have women who sit miles away from terminal premises operating key cranes just by a joystick. So it's taken away the barrier of physique that we used to associate with operating these cranes. It's also taken away the barrier of the port environment not being conducive for a woman to work in. So technology in that aspect has brought about a lot of opportunity for women to be upfront and operating terminals and ports around the world. Similarly, at SAGT during the pandemic, we digitized our import clearance process. where we allowed someone to go online and simply print out an EDA or electronic delivery advice. And what we realized was a lot of our customers were now deploying women in their back offices to process the EDAs, which previously required an individual to run around, engage with different stakeholders, long working hours. This was no longer a barrier. So today we have females working in these operations and assisting the logistics and transport industry. So it didn't just give us opportunity in our own industry, but it's also given us opportunity to bring about diversity throughout the supply chain. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. I would really love if you take an extra 30 seconds and tell the audience about your journey and what the relatively less time you've spent in shipping and still are up here as an expert on the subject. That's also important.
Thank you. So as Meera mentioned, I joined the industry about 4 years ago. I originally started off my career in leisure and property. When I joined into a relatively senior role commensurate to my previous position. The opportunity that I had through technology was to use that as aid to bring my expertise from my previous roles into me bridging that gap of not having industry expertise for the position that I was in. So it really did bring about that opportunity for me to adapt a lot of information over time. I mean technology, I have information at my fingertips, but I was also able to be part of the import delivery process, the automation process, which allowed me to engage with experts and get knowledge as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. Akanksha, I'm going to direct the next question to you. The question is, even in developed nations like Singapore, where you've lived and you work, are there problems, especially maybe in the SME sector, with respect to designing and implementing digital initiatives? Over to you. Please do introduce yourself as well.
Thank you, Meera. So that's a loaded question, and I'm quite passionate about it, so I'm going to try my best to answer it. But before that, allow me to introduce myself. You've already done a very nice job of doing that, but I'll just add on a little bit. So I'm from Singapore. I work for 3 SMEs that are founded by my father. So I'm second-gen leader, and unfortunately, unlike Ms. Nafisa, I can't yet say that I have proven myself, so I'm still working on that. But what an honor it is to be in this conference today, so thank you to the organizers for having me as well. So let me get down to the question. The question was, do we experience any problems in Singapore with implementation of digitized initiatives for SMEs, the small and medium enterprise sector? Yes. Very much so, yes. So SMEs generally, wherever they are in the world, are very resource constrained. We have a financial constraint, we have talent constraints, cash flow issues. These are common problems for SMEs. But allow me to try and answer how we at Singapore try to work together with our regulator, with the government, to come up with risk mitigating issues, or how do we help these situations out. And to help you out, and to help me out with the answer, I have structured it into 3 parts, okay? And there are 3 C's, because in Ode of Maritime's CEO, there are 3 C's. So the first C is commitment to digitalization. All right, so digitalization or digitization doesn't just happen by itself. You really do need a lot of regulatory support and industry support. So we have a Singapore Shipping Association in Singapore, for which there are about 500 members, and many of them are SMEs. I sit on the council over there, and we have a digitization committee, all right? What they do is they take a lot of consultative work from SMEs, and then they work with partners like PwC, these large consulting houses, to come up with perhaps like a digitization roadmap workshop. In fact, it just ended on Tuesday, the first run of it, and it really helps companies to come up with unique frameworks for themselves that fit into their operational networks and whatnot. This is just one of the initiatives, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of how we do it. The second one is collective collaboration. So we prioritize having a very strong public-private partnership in Singapore. And the SSA, which is the Singapore Shipping Association, works very closely, as I said, with the regulator, which is Maritime and Port Authority, MPA. And what that does is when we do consultative work with the SMEs, it helps to formulate good strategies, good regulation that is not lost on the ground. It matches with ground realities. So a lot of times our regulator will come up with industry-wide digitization efforts, but they have to match with what is the capability. In Singapore, for instance, and not just in maritime, we have 70% of the workforce that is employed by SMEs. So you cannot leave them behind, you have to keep them with you, and you have to be consultative. So that's the collaboration. The second part of the collaboration I just want to highlight is we have a very lovely ecosystem we have developed called Pier 71. It is basically a maritime accelerator and ecosystem that brings together, Bridget is nodding, I think some of her founders are from there actually. I'm a mentor over there, I'm fortunate to serve over there as a mentor. And you know, it really brings together the industry incumbents. It brings together diverse people from different industries, disciplines, to come together, to come solve a problem from maritime. You know, sometimes we don't have the solutions, but we need to borrow things from aviation, from healthcare, from oil and gas. That's what it does, and it also brings in some investors as well, so that helps. So that's a part of the collaboration item. And the third one, which we are all here for actually, is capacity building, the third C. So I do have a role that I very much cherish and I'm very thankful for. I'm the IMO Goodwill Maritime Ambassador representing Singapore. So in that capacity, I do a lot of ambassadorship and awareness for not just students, but even mid-career professionals. Yeah, so that really helps to bring in people from outside of the industry as well. But the other thing I want to add on for what Udara's also mentioned is when you digitize jobs, you can redesign them, right? Not just upskilling, reskilling, you redesign jobs and you make the industry more accessible for people that traditionally have the odds stacked against them. This could be differently abled people or women. And of course, we know with more diversity, more inclusion, we have a higher level of innovation in our industry. So if I heard this morning, Your Excellency, Ms. Negelgard and Dr. Malini, you shared some very nice statistics. So allow me to share a little bit more. These are worldwide global statistics. But 70% of high school valedictorians are female. Okay? But we only have 2 to 3% of women seafarers. And that number on shore is not much higher than that. I don't have the exact numbers, but it's not much higher than that. Now, 75% of expecting moms say that they will go back to work, but only 40% go back. All right? I'm just giving you some statistics to make sense of this. And the penalties for taking time out of work for women are very high. When compared to women who have not taken a break in a 15-year period, 2 women who have taken a 1-year break, they have experienced a 40% lower salary. All right? So you put these 3 statistics together. That means valedictorians, women are capable. Clearly, Dr. Malini, you have also alluded to that many times. Then we've got people being penalized because they generally have more caretaking roles. But what digitization can do is that it can job redesign and allow for women to not leave the industry. Yeah? Keep them on in differently designed jobs. So to me, these are the 3 C's that can help mitigate some problems. And in Singapore, we are trying to do that. So we've got our commitment to digitize, collective collaboration, and capacity building. So a little lengthy, but I hope you liked it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Your response had, see, there are claps from the audience. Your response had the statistics and had the 3 C's and also gave us insight in terms of regulatory frameworks and public-private partnerships. Thank you. I must, though, with your permission, crack a little joke. You talked about women having babies and falling back. I have noticed this as well. And I've started giving advice now to very young women, saying, if you're planning a baby, and please don't go put it in your resume that you had a baby and that's why you weren't working for 3 years. Instead, just register a company. Say you were running a startup. It is a startup after all. And what I've noticed is it's perfectly acceptable for men to say, oh, you know, I was a startup owner for 3 years and come back to work at a bonus. So ladies, keep it in mind. Too late for me. My daughter's 26, but the rest of you. With that, I'd like to go and let you also know chivalry is not dead. Uday, Uday consented to be the last. Thank you so much, Uday. Uday, I'd request you to please first introduce yourself and tell us, with your global experience in an otherwise very niche sector, surveys and new building with DNV. What is your experience in terms of various parts around the world? How is your sector adapting to digitization? And what is it that you would like to share?
Yeah, thank you, Meera. So I represent a company called DNV. We are a classification society. In DNV, in India, just to talk about the number of people that we are over 900 people, and 29% of our workforce are female employees. And having said that, gender diversity is important. At the same time, we also focus on the diversity with respect to the race, background, and social experience as well. So in DNV Maritime in India, so 10% of our employees are expats currently that we have in India. And these are people who have worked in like China, Korea, having over 30 years experience. So these are, who are to transfer experience and who have seen the problems in the past at different places and exchanging this with our colleagues here in India. So we focus also on the diversity of other aspects as well. And then coming to the question about the technology, I would like to give 3 examples, maybe what we are doing in DNV in Maritime. First is smart survey booking. So this is a tool where the ships are actually trading all over the world. And from the AIS, we know where the ships are going and when the survey windows are opening up. So the tool predicts and tells that these are the locations that you could actually carry out your survey. Because previously it used to be in the past, the ship owners used to contact different stations based on the suitability and availability of the surveyors. But now this tool gives a prediction, okay, you have a window period open and these are the possible locations where you can plan your surveys. So this gives, reduced costs and drives in efficiency for planning their surveys. Then the second example is we have something called as a DATE, direct access to technical experts. So when our customers ask queries, so they directly reaches to our experts and then they respond. So this is like an AI tool which is actually capturing all this data. And when a similar query is again asked by a different customer, then it tries to match like, okay, whether it's 50% or 70% that have been matched and gives an auto response. And then it's also vetted by our experts and sees and they respond to that again. So this has been quite popular and very well used by all our customers, and this is the power of technology. And sometimes if it is urgent, like if you have like a damage survey or something, you have port state control issues, if you put it as an urgent, then you get a response in 4 hours time. So I would say that's the power of technology. The third example is, I give you one offshore example where if you have an FPSO, the requirement says that you need to do an inverter survey every 3 years. But from experience, we have seen that FPSOs are stationary, they remain at the same location over a period of time, and we haven't found any major indications where inverter surveys by divers are required. So this is where again technology plays a role. We are open to solutions when customers come back and say that from past history that there have been no findings when they come up with alternate solutions. So using technology to find alternate solutions and collaborate with our customers to find solutions is what I would say which helps the technology here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. When I hear DNV, I hear a very reputable, very senior, very staid organization. And here we have them reinventing themselves with an acronym like DATE. So I wanted to tell you ladies, if you want to date, he's the guy.
I'm open.
So must remember, technology and digitization allows you to stay young and crack a joke every so often. For the next bit, I'm going to just throw one open question out. The topic said impact of AI, digitization, and technical initiatives. And impact on any society really is a combination of impact on the individuals within. So I'd love it if you could get up close and personal. Share with us with my open question, which is, what is your personal relationship with technology and digitization? Do you have a message for the audience? Let me start again with you, Udara.
Thank you, Meera. So, as I mentioned previously, I come from I joined the industry only 4 years ago, and I came from a completely unrelated industry. Technology was really my best friend because it helped me to adapt, and it also helped me to learn the industry fast enough so that I could add value back into the industry. I was able to, as I mentioned, I was able to be part of this cross-functional team as I started. In my first week in itself, I was able to be part of this cross-functional team. And there, although I didn't know anything about what I was doing, I was able to bring perspective. I was able to ask the questions about how it was going to get digitized because, like she mentioned, we were redesigning a process that was done for years. And when you redesign something new, you can bring about new perspective. So technology really helped me to kind of understand that operational area. It also helped me to add value into the industry as well. So my advice or my little note would be to really push yourselves outside of your boundaries from what you know. Use what you know, add technology to it to bring about a different perspective. Because at the end of the day, you can add value, and that value can be enhanced by if you just use technology, because you have information at your fingertips, you can make something different, convenience, and yeah. So that's the opportunity.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much for all the young ladies and men out here, 4 years into the industry and using technology as the great leveler to grow faster. Thank you. Akanksha, would you please?
All right, so I think I have cemented myself as someone who likes data, so let me start with that. So, you know, according to the World Economic Forum, they do this survey every year or every 2 years. They say that 65% of school students right now will end up with jobs that do not exist yet. So for instance, 10, 15 years ago, there was no generative AI, but now there are jobs in it, right? But does anyone want to hazard a guess when was the first paper for AI written? Anyone, just shout out, please. Early 90s, okay, anyone else? 70s, is that what you said? All right. Okay, I'm not going to hold it up very much longer. 1950, Alan Turing wrote a paper. 1950. So it goes to show that many of us honestly overestimate the value of digitization, of innovation in the short term, but we underestimate what it can do in the long term. And that is why investing in digitization for the long term is important. But as the famous strategist Peter Drucker, he says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. All right? So that means that a company's culture is far more important than any strategy your team can come up with. So we have to make a culture that is going to support innovation, digitization in the long term. And for this, we need a potent mix of people, profit, purpose, and mindset. Sorry, I know you were expecting another P, but maybe perspective. But mindset, all right? And there's an important tenet in design thinking, and if I could have all of you take back one thing from my sharing here today, it would be that. Fall in love with the problem, not with the solution. When you fall in love with the problem, you are tenacious, you are going to want to solve it in whatever way, shape, form. But if you fall in love with the solution, you're just going to try and sell it. You will become stagnant, and that is about it. And lastly, in the words of, purportedly words of Henry Ford, the legendary car maker, he has said that, you know, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. All right? So that was a man, thank you, that was a man who fell in love with the problem and not with the solution. So if I could have you take back something, that would be my sharing. Thank you.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much. You know, you reminded me of something that my boss continuously tells me, which is in digitization, if you aren't building something that will make you obsolete in 2 years, you aren't doing anything at all. So, yeah, thank you for that. Uday, over to you.
Yeah, so my personal experience would be like in DNV when we started doing remote surveys and all in 2018, I was a firm believer of, that this would not happen. Because we were doing a lot of surveys physically and all, I thought, no, this we are starting and it's not going to happen. But I've been proven wrong. And now I'm actually, for it, and I'm challenging internally a lot why this can't be done remotely, why we can't do this using technology. So, of course, Akanksha had talked about decarbonization and digitalization. So last few years in the maritime industry, we are talking about decarbonization and digitalization. I would say now the cybersecurity and AI, artificial intelligence, has been added to it. And if somebody says that this is not going to happen, I would compare it with the dot-com bubble we had in 2000 when people said the internet is not going to happen. So I'm quite sure that AI and the cybersecurity is going to be relevant, and it's going to be on the agenda going forward for all the people over here.
Thank you so much. We are now open for questions, and hope that you have some for us. Please feel free to ask questions about the people concerned. If it's about the date, you can take it outside. Anybody? Okay, so if not, we had given ourselves liberty to ask each other questions because we're also meeting for the first time, ladies and gentlemen. I would love to ask you there about the DNV survey ecosystem thing. How did you get past the mindset issue or the change issue? Because we again feel that survey is a field where there are specialists over many years who hand the baton down from generation to generation. How did you get past? It's one thing, and you shared very honestly, that your journey from disbelief to belief, but how did you transfer that over to other stakeholders? Over to you.
Yeah, I think when it started in the initial phase, there's a lot of reluctance from the various stakeholders. There is no doubt COVID had actually accelerated usage of the remote surveys and using of the technology. So as long as a person physically present or an equivalent solution by using technology, be it like video conferencing or predicting based on the predictive maintenance, an equivalent solution is being available. So we have been both internally for our own surveyors as well as to our customers as well. When the equivalent solution is available, so then with the power of technology, we do accept to credit the surveys or to accept those solutions.
Thank you so much. Anybody here would like to ask, or should I summarize? Okay. I just want to leave you with a thought. We talk about AI and we talk about technology and we talk about DEI. Is it not giving us women an unfair hand? Because end of day, we all credit technology with the ability to multitask and do 200 things at one time, which pretty much is what our grandmothers and great-grandmothers did all along. So I do definitely feel passionate about what this great revolution, whether it's AI we're talking about or deep learning we're talking about. Are there risks? Plenty. Will there be discomfort? Plenty. But there has been risk and discomfort for the marginalized all along. And this now gives opportunity as well for those who learn early, those who adapt early, to grab opportunities, create legends, and move forward. It's been an absolute honor to have this lovely, lovely panel. Yes, Akanksha,
you said
please.
something that I want to just add to, and if I could share, what you are not changing, you are choosing. So what you have mentioned is absolutely true. We have to make that change to ensure that people join as well. So thanks to you, you summarized it quite well. I'm sorry I spoke after you, but
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So thank you so much to my beautiful, lovely panel. And I hope that we've entertained, if not educated you, because that was the aim. And we have one personal request, each one of us. We would love to interact a little bit more with the audience, hear your journeys with technology and digitization. On behalf of all of us, please do reach out to us later after the panel and during the day. Thank you so very much.
Request the panelists to stay back for a group photo. And Sanjam, if we can hand over the token of appreciation to all of them.